Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another interview with Alex on Tech and IT Wire TV. I'm joined today by Ben Jones. He's the MD at Continuum Cyber. Welcome to the program.
Thanks, Alex. I appreciate having me on.
It's great to have you here. Now, Ben, cybersecurity has never been more important, and I see the TV airwaves and the radio airwaves flooded with ads for various cybersecurity companies. I'm living in Canberra. I hear them on radio there for the targeting the business market and obviously government as well. So, securing our digital lives and businesses is obviously more important than ever. So the obvious first question to ask is, what are the products and services that Continuum Cyber offers, and what makes it different and better to competitors?
Sure. I think any time that Ryan Reynolds gets on a cybersecurity advert, there's uplift. And he did a wonderful advert recently for a password management system, which was very, very good. Injecting a little bit of humour into the cybersecurity world is much needed. Yeah. And there's an entire cohort of people in our network, professionally around the world, who talk often about how humour can be a good way of helping people learn and to demystify some of the challenges that we have. Yeah. So Continuum Cyber has been around for about a year now. Our remit completely is simplicity for the end user, because really the Sydney Morning Herald and the Times of London and the New Delhi Times, they do our PR for us because every day we're reading about another breach. In fact, it's become so popular within the vernacular that we don't even raise an eyebrow now when we hear about a data breach, or we hear about $10 million, stolen from somewhere, or it's just become part of our collective consciousness as something we've accepted. However, the reason we set the business up was really to address that cohort of small to medium-sized businesses in Australia and internationally that don't know how to orientate themselves, have legacy systems or normal systems, 365s, Google accounts, all that type of stuff, but often they're not optimized. The rhetoric from the big vendors, which has trickled down really into what we all think now is, it's not if, it's when. So ultimately our business is there to enable those smaller businesses who are the absolute heartbeat of Australian business to get themselves orientated where they are, provide them with a roadmap to get them to where they need to be, and then give them the tools to do that in a timely manner with professional support. That's really what we're about.
Yeah, I mean, for consumer security, the companies often like to sort of make you think that it's a bit of set and forget, but it's not like that at all. You really, especially in the business scenario, you really do have to drill down and make sure you've got all the correct settings, and it's much more complicated than just set and forget.
I mean, I think if it was anything that anyone, and again, it's not even my line, it's one I heard from a great presenter in the States a couple of years ago, but what's always rung true and why I started the business is this problem statement. And it is that the attacker or the bad guy is the innovator. The industry as such is always only ever chasing that. Yeah. So, is it recession proof? Yeah, in many ways it is, but that's not the MO for getting into the business. The reason is to help a fast-paced environment that's changing all the time. For example, I think there was a little piece of on-site information this morning that said there's 86,000 new pieces of malware that had entered into the market last week. That was from the British intelligence services. 86,000 different types of malware that have come back in. Some of them with just a smidgen of code changed, but that's all that's needed really to interrupt business. Yeah. We're here to assist those businesses articulate and understand all those big challenges, bring it down to real language, and actually make real change. We all know, and nobody can indemnify you against a cyber attack. That's a panacea that I think will never happen or be enjoyed by any one company. But I think what we can do is really work towards getting great cadence in your business, great rules, great education, good governance, and in partnership with those business, drastically reduce the risk that sits within your business with this, what is really a new vertical.
Now, as we're recording this in late May 2022, you made a very big announcement on LinkedIn about a brand new partnership with James Linton for security education, awareness and training. Now, if people watching are familiar with that name, it should come as no surprise, but please tell us about James and his fascinating story and the work that you're doing together.
Yeah, James, I came across James about 3 years ago when he was working for a reseller in California called Agari. They manufacture and developed a really great piece of fraud technology that really sits in that sort of DMARC space, if you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. James had started his life as a web designer and decided that he would play some pranks at work using email. I love his story because it buys into my original message, which is all about simplicity. James essentially was able to, with his iPhone in a car park, spoof his CEO at work by changing some very basic settings. He got away with it, and it amused him, and his personality type is such that this created a lot of curiosity for him. He's a very detail-focused guy. And so then he decided to think, well, can I go and prank anyone else? And prank he did. He then went on to prank the CEO of Morgan Stanley, of JP Morgan, of Barclays Bank, and then ultimately the head of Homeland Security at the White House. So James hacked the White House, including a Kushner, a Trump, and then got mainstream, he got mainstream
attention and awareness.
Attention as a result of it. James then realised that this was getting quite serious, and his intent was always about pranking to see what he could get away with. But what he inadvertently had done is basically uncovered and showcased what spear phishing really is. In fact, the first time the word spear phishing was used was on the Jimmy Kimmel show in the US, late night chat show, where he was brought up and used as an example. So James got to a point where he realised this is actually getting quite dangerous because he'd been so successful.
You might start getting a knock on the door from the FBI, the Secret Service.
Helicopters, everything. And so he was then quickly picked up by this email-based company in the States. He then went on to work on a number of amazing projects. Number one, he was very influential in working with the authorities in smashing a gang in Nigeria around email fraud, and James's tactics and insights were fundamental in helping those guys get that result. James subsequently came to Australia on a speaking tour. I was lucky enough to host him whilst he was here. We became friends. His career has furthered on. He's gone much deeper into cybersecurity awareness and training. As you know, my background is working with young people, psychologist. I never thought that being a psychologist would serve me in cybersecurity. Actually, it really has. Because for me, the main challenge is that cognitive dissonance or cyber dissonance in what we know to be true, yet we still don't do it. So the example is always I use is cigarettes. We know we shouldn't smoke. On the packet it literally says these will kill you, yet people still do it. So what's the break in stopping them do that? James has become so important to our business and woven into the fabric of it because his advice is coming from someone that's actually walked on that path. James has got a number of videos that he's created and workshops that he's created with us. I'm really proud that we've sort of exclusively got those in Australia for the next 12 months. And what it enables us to do is to go into businesses and then help them spot a scam. Now, we've become obsessed with the scammer in the last couple of years. The Victorian card trick has never really gone away. But if you think about it, we've had the Tinder Swindler, I think, which was on Netflix's biggest hits. The Anna show about the girl in New York, which is another one, and there's almost a romance thing around the scam.
Catch Me If You Can.
Catch Me If You Can is the best example. DiCaprio, of course. And so we have a human fascination with that, but it's crossed the Rubicon now into it affecting our lives. And really, the main attack vertical is the scam into business. So James coming on board, having with his reformed character, if you will, to create this content for us, which then helps business how to spot a scam, has been very impactful for my customers. And it's got that kitschy factor of being interesting. I myself, over the years, have had to sat through maybe many hours of security awareness, which can be stale, and
You've got to engage people.
You've got to engage people, and there's a couple of guys who do it really well. There's another guy in England called Ian Murphy. He's a Liverpudlian guy who does some very good content, and there's some wonderful content out there. But for me, it's about engagement, because the entire process is about changing behaviour. James's story, why he's great for Continuum, and it's a good partnership for us, is that engagement, his story helps change behaviour. And we've already had a couple of stories whereby people within the business have watched his content, spotted something, and I know we've stopped a fraud, which is massively pleasing for the business.
Yeah. And when you say scamming a business, I mean, ultimately, there's that famous line, you are the weakest link.
Yep.
It's humans that are being scammed. You're the one that sits there and clicks the thing or believes whatever it is that's coming through, that you think it's the CEO or whoever it might be.
Yep.
And it's understanding that and realizing that you've got to be ultra street smart in the 21st century.
We do, and again, going back to that original idea of innovation, technology is usually fairly binary, although it obviously can be fooled occasionally, but invariably it's the person that's operating a piece of equipment within a business who's overwhelmed, or maybe working from home, or sees an email.
Well, it's like those dodgy SMS messages we've all been attacked with in Australia over the past few months with, you've got a parcel, you've got a customs delivery, you've got a message from your doctor. I mean, the ingenuity of those guys is, or the cybercriminals, is just non-stop.
It is, and whilst people have this visualization of what cybersecurity is often about, my belief is that the majority of these attacks aren't that sophisticated, but they are preying on the human. And you're right, I think 90%, there's an argument between 85 and 95% of all attacks are, started from the human. Even way, it's weighted heavily that it's our interaction and it's our ability to be swayed. But the minute that someone perforates your system, gets the lay of the land, and starts communicating with you in a familiar style, anything you might have learned in a classroom 6 months ago goes quickly out the window when people are using anchors or other different types of techniques to draw you in. And James does a really good example in his content of making sure that the end user really understands what a scammer's trying to do, and that's usually trying to ask you for something, get you to do something. And so the message we impart through our education package is to follow the guidelines of the guy that managed to hack the White House. So, because if the White House can be hacked, anyone can be.
Yeah, and it just reminds me of Kevin Mitnick. His biggest success was social engineering, ringing up, pretending to be someone desperately needing tech support, and the other person takes pity on them, wants to help. The human nature to be helpful, and cost them. It cost them.
And I probably shouldn't really come on in talking about other businesses and how good they are, but Know Before have done a really great job. And I can't remember the commercial deal they did with Mitnick, but I'm sure it was give him a portion of the company. And they've been very successful in the market. They've got a wonderful catalogue of
training,
content, and training.
It really helps companies. But look, it's good that there's a lot of good security companies out there who are making a real effort to help companies and people be armed with the right thinking and tools to.
There is, the thing that I always thought was going to be an accelerant towards adoption was the federal government coming to the party and actually sort of putting their hand in their pocket to help businesses. This year we've seen for the first time in the budget only a small tax break and a small piece of money come through, because the government are doing a great job in terms of actually incentivising businesses to then go forward and get that. That's been helpful for us. And helpful overall for the industry, but I just think it's the way that this content is delivered and the way that it's received that makes meaningful distance. So we worked with a couple of really great people, including one of the researchers down at the University of Adelaide, to look at what the key points are, because we like empirical evidence when we're making commercial decisions, and it's very interesting when you look at the body of evidence around what actually drives behavioural change. And so for me, to get back to the original point, James Linton's one of our biggest successes, because he's someone that can make an impact on the staff to change their behaviour to help you guard your business.
Now, you've also harnessed the power of Web 3.0 and the Metaverse.
We have, yeah.
So tell us about how this is augmenting and extending our reality with these new moves.
It's a funny one. The reason that we started it is that purely, ultimately I've got a wonderful development team who've really helped us build our platform out, and Marcel, who leads that team, with a wonderful business called We Are Bloom. Has been toying around with the Metaverse for a number of different clients for a while.
Yeah, I mean, the Second Life's been around for 20 years.
That's right, and The Sims has, and there's been all sorts of variants of this.
It's finally coming into the mainstream in a bigger way, and it's only going to get bigger over the course of the next few years.
It is. So when we looked at it, the thing that really astounded me was that my brother and sister, Sam and Laura, were both management consultants, and they both work for Accenture. So I've always followed them and McKinsey, obviously, to get great insights. But I started seeing last year that they were actually onboarding and making an investment into the Metaverse. My brother also has a really great Web 3.0 company. So I'm always kept abreast of what's going on in that world. But I really think that the minute that Accenture start buying 10,000 headsets to train their new staff, and you've got other businesses like Walmart who are then onboarding people regionally, there's something there, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's been fully realised. We've got a lovely little conference centre which, again, our development team have built out for us. James content sits natively within that.
And that's an online Metaverse conference centre.
That's right, yeah. So what we have a staging room when I do a greeting video for you, welcome, this, that and the other. Then you go down some stairs and you look out the window and it's like looks like Kowloon Harbour in 100 years' time. It's beautiful, which is purposeful because I grew up there.
Yeah.
And then we have a podium where you can present. We have a couple of breakout rooms. It's a little bit kitschy because I've not seen anyone else doing it, and I think that draws attention and is a conversation piece. But again, there are always trails of success. And again, these big companies are investing a lot of their time. So when we met small business owners, are they going to have a $2,000 headset in the office? Probably not. Can you do the training online in 2D? Yes, you can.
Yeah, I was about to ask that because you've got the Oculus Quest headsets, which are about $500 and cheaper.
Well, I think the barrier to adoption in all of that is always going to be the cost of the headset, because once you get into it, it is phenomenal.
But in 2D, it's more like a Zoom type of scenario.
It is.
Which people are very used to these days.
They're used to it, and again, the aesthetic of it's beautiful, but really it's about having something extra that I've not seen a lot of other people do. I'm sure there's going to be other people playing catch up. Yeah. I think in time, what it really means for us is scale. It means that we can do the Zoom meetings, which I've used for a number of years now. They've been so great during COVID, but there's always something about the human connection which has always been important to me. I think it's important to everybody.
Yeah.
The Metaverse gets...
It's one reason why we're doing this video interview in person as opposed to over Zoom.
That's right, yeah, exactly. But I think Web3 will bring with it positives and negatives. I mean, I was thinking about this morning. I mean, I've got real world security problems, say in our office. We've got to make sure the keypads are here, that my phone is in my pocket, my passcode's on there, and then I go into my second world, which is the internet. I need to make sure my passwords are up. I need to make sure that my malware defenses are on, my endpoint selections, you know what I mean?
Everything's up to date.
Everything's up to date. And then now we're again going into a third reality, whereby there's already been some early signs there's a lot of mess in terms of how we secure ourselves there. And so as a cybersecurity company, whilst it's a good little caveat to have to educate people, I certainly have got one eye on as a business person to see, well, what are the challenges going to be for people transacting in that universe with crypto, with how you meet people, how business is done, buying land. I mean, there's all sorts going on in that area. So we've invested early to get in to understand, to build out obviously scale and education, but it's also because it would be naive of me to not think that in 10 years time transactionally there'll be a lot more going on there and someone will need to secure it. I want to learn how as quickly as I can.
Now, it's nearly the middle of 2022, people know about haveibeenpwned.com,
yep.
And, there's, as we spoke about, there's all sorts of things on the news about the breaches. It's become almost cliche that, someone's been breached and something's been leaked. But, when you talk to businesses, what are some of the mistakes that people are still making out there, despite all this awareness and education?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've all seen like there's like this annual password day, that everyone jumps on.
Yeah, World Password Day.
World Password.
I like to say that, especially with the Safe Internet Day, I like to say that every day should be World Password Day. Yep. Every day should be Safer Internet Day.
For me, because again, having worked in the enterprise, and I'm no longer there. I work in small and medium businesses. Essentially, it's the usual stuff. That's the Essential 8 do a really good job, I must say. Australian-wise, do a really good job of addressing. I think adoption of anything that they've got to say really, again, reduces your risk a lot quicker. For me, the main problems are backups. It's about having someone that's dedicated to this issue, and just people taking it genuinely seriously. That's a lot of the feedback that we get. We have a little sort of bat phone on our platform whereby you can give us a message if something happens, and we send you a little ebook in that first 5 minutes before one of our technicians actually gets in touch with you and starts telling you to unplug everything. We've just found that these guys are running their business, right, and that's their MO. That's what's important to them. Cyber's something that happens to anyone else, but when it happens to them is mad panic, and that's hopefully what we're doing when we're having partnerships with these businesses, is making them aware. So one of the things that we do a lot of micro simulations with any new customer. So when they come in, we do a 1 hour round table with the business leaders.
Well, I was going to ask, what is the short version of the onboarding process? And you're telling me about it, so I'll shut up and let you keep going.
No, of course. Well, I mean, the platform itself is fairly self-serve, but obviously all customers get 1 hour with a technologist every month. We've spent a lot of time in terms of the UX to make sure that any onboarding can be done. Lots of these services platforms now, you do it totally yourself, but what was fundamental to me was to ensure that you have a human connection with someone navigating, because a lot of the terms, especially through the security audit that we use, are terms that, scary for people, but the sanctity of that information that we gather at the inception of the relationship drives the overall outcome in the security journey that we take them on.
And if people need more time, it's available.
Well, yeah, we need more time, but really we want someone to hold your hand going through that presentation, because we had a guy this morning that owns 15 coffee shops. Now, the quality of his problems this morning was that he had 5 baristas that had not turned up, not his cybersecurity, do you know what I mean? So we've integrated a little bit of simplicity in the platform, so someone can check, have a vulnerability scanned on every day on their account, on their internet-facing architecture, to get their little green tick, because that's what business owners have told me is important to them.
On the dashboard.
On the dashboard, we've built that out for them. But really, people just want to know that they're as safe as they can be, and then we want to make sure that we give them accurate reporting. We're selling cybersecurity for small business, but really what we're selling is some assurance, and also we're also selling them the opportunity to sort of show them and orientate, let them know really where they are. So we benchmark them against other people within their industry. Lots of arguments for people saying how useful that is. Well, it is for me, because it gives you some idea of where you are. And if you're starting on a journey, and you're starting with a continuum journey, the most important thing is to understand implicitly is where are you right now. We are then highlight to you where we want to get you to, and we run you through 3 main sort of verticals when we're actually engaged with you. Education is obviously one of those key components, but what we want to be able to do is to make sure that we're touching all of your staff with the right messages. So again, pardon the security cliche, but they become part of your security team as well, and that's what the James Linton stuff's enabled us to do. But really, the level of effort that we've put in terms of building the platform, working with our customers, is about getting outcomes, but understanding that these companies don't have a SOC, they don't have a cybersecurity expert. So we've simplified it as much as we can. The hardest piece of the entire platform, and we work with guys from CRUB, from Chubb, from Kroll, we basically were able to reduce down ISO 27001, CIS, NIST, and the Essential 8 down to a certain amount of questions that were palatable. We then spent a lot of time with a linguist, in fact, making sure those questions were worded right to get the right responses, because then obviously that's our starting point. And then we take those people on a journey to improve and harden all their systems, and that's the journey we take people on. We also have a marketplace. We're here today to talk, not to sell, but it would be disingenuous of me not to tell you about what the full platform looks like. And so we have a marketplace on there that has some secondary services like those pen testing, because usually once someone opens up the kimono, we give good advice from our consultations. Then there's other services that we can do in the assurance journey. So that's been good as well.
So you mentioned one of the customers that you have. Are there any other customer success stories you want to share? And I realise you probably don't want to name any names, but just...
No, of course. I mean, I'm happy to name one name. I mean, we've worked with a very successful liquidation company and advisory company in Sydney called Mackay Goodwin. They have offices, 7 or 8 offices in Australia, some in Asia as well. They're in insolvency and liquidation, so they're often dealing with the crown jewels. Really, the proudest moments that we started the business is that we were able to run out our education, and 2 of the admin staff realised they'd been spoofed. We're able to report that, and we stopped what I think probably would have been a breach, because the staff were on point, because they'd learned something that week from James Linton. So, I mean, that's my biggest success story today. But really, it's we're pounding the pavement, obviously, at the moment. We're going out to see businesses, and we're going to speak to people where cyber's a new cost centre. So really, we're on an evangelical journey at the moment, an educational journey to show people what the software can do. But it allows transparency, it allows reporting, and really allows a security uplift. So that's what we're trying to do in this next 6 to 12 months.
Yeah. Now, Veeam recently put out a report talking about how it could be futile to rely upon paying for ransoms when you're attacked by ransomware, because a lot of the ransomware is now attacking backup repositories. Some of those backup repositories are actually being attacked through vulnerabilities that the hackers are taking advantage of, and they're talking about air gapping your backups, having them on the cloud, having them on disconnected systems. So it just made me think, what platforms are you using to deliver backups, deliver the endpoint security? Are you technology agnostic in the sense that you choose the best one or the ones that customers are using? What's the short story there?
Short story is I'm agnostic. I don't go in and support one vendor, and I've worked with some of those vendors before, and there's lots of great technology out there. We are working directly in partnership with the business to see what they can afford and what they can utilise within their own current infrastructure. Ultimately, there's sometimes when you go in and there's a need for an investment, and we'll give a recommendation using Gartner usually or something like that, and talk them through what the benefits are. But again, you're dealing with smaller businesses. P-value is usually about 100 people. They've usually got an MSP involved as well that can help handle some of this stuff. So there's a trickle order of relationships going on when you're trying to get the best outcome. Going back to the Veeam report, we're very clear about how we feel about backups and making sure that people are doing that offline. And we had a great example last week where someone was whacked. They came to me after they'd been compromised, and they'd actually got to cadence of backup every hour, which they thought was great, which in many ways is. But they'd had a really great hour before they got breached, and they'd lost that hour. Within their backup, if you know what I mean. Which doesn't sound like a lot, but ultimately that opened them up to a whole new set of problems.
Well, any continuous backup, and I mean that usually comes at an extra cost, and load on the network and all the rest.
That's right.
So look, before I get on to some of the closing questions about you, what else haven't I asked you about that people should know about Continuum Cyber?
The main thing that I really want to impart to anyone who's looking at cybersecurity is just we're here to help you out. We're not here to sell you a huge fancy new piece of software. We're here to really consolidate all of the existing tools you've got and to really squeeze the most out of them. As a business, you're a businessman or a businesswoman, you're running that business well. You need to be an expert in this area. We're here to partner to ensure that you're getting the most out of the resources you've already invested in, making sure that the staff that you're in understand what their responsibilities are, that you're getting great governance, but mostly that you just understand exactly where you are. There's no way that a good leader of a business wouldn't be orientated on their P&L or with HR. We're just bringing that to the table, and we're really helping you get a laser-like focus on where you are and where you need to get to, and giving you practical tools on a daily basis to help you get there. We are not a CrowdStrike, we are not a Mimecast, we are not an international, huge endpoint solution that is actively threat hunting. But what we are is a business whereby we're applying what we've seen in the market with 5 great people who are here to help you and your business out. And really, once you've had your first experience with us and we go through that customer journey, I feel confident that relationship will flourish because we pride ourselves on having good customer experiences.
Now, you mentioned before that you work for different security companies.
Yep.
You were in psychology.
Yep.
But what else, briefly, is your story of your journey in the world of tech? What got you so interested in security that you decided to found your own security company?
Yeah, well, I'm a very kind man. I worked as a psychologist, and I used to work in palliative care. I came to Australia to work for an organisation called Canteen. They do the bandanas every year, so I worked in teenage cancer. A lot of that was sort of end-of-life stuff, and it's a wonderful job. I used to work at the Children's Hospital here in Randwick, and then John Hunter, and all around New South Wales, and did that for sort of 11, 12 years. I then moved into sales, started with AstraZeneca, you might have heard of this year, and which in many ways was vacuous in comparison to the work I'd done with Canteen and with the National Health Service, but was a wonderful organisation that really invested in me. Did very well there and went through the ranks very quickly, and then I met a great guy who pulled me into cybersecurity, who'd been very successful in a big vendor here. Joined his business and he showed me the ropes, met a really good team there. We resold some wonderful products, but I always felt there was a gap in between the CISO operating at a big company up the road here to the everyman businessman, and there was an inequity out of what those guys could get and what the normal guy could get. Also spotted the trends with joining the ONSIT community, joining things like the Cyan here, led by Peter, obviously. I joined the Cyber Leadership Institute with Philip Zongo, Darren Argyle, Jan Schroeder, and did one of their courses. And so really was welcomed open arms into this community, which is tight-knit but a really wonderful group of people.
Yeah.
And the reason I started the business, because I just thought that we could do better for the guys that maybe didn't have the big budgets and couldn't afford that. So my drive...
Democratising security.
Well, I mean, I'd love to put that on my business card now you've mentioned it, but I might be a little bit over the top. But our pure idea is just to help those smaller businesses get to a place where they need to be to reduce their risk. Yeah. So we're a risk management business ultimately, and I feel very passionately that at the heart of that is not technology, but is the people.
Yeah.
And that's why my background serves me so much better than I thought that it would do. Because when you join the tech industry, as maybe people identify with, you have this imposter syndrome saying, oh, I'm not a technology expert, I'm not this, I'm not that. There's a million things I'm not, but there's a couple of things I am. And they're the things I build the business on, the staff around, and with our customers, and I'm really proud of that.
The heart of everything is always the people. It's it's never the technology or this or that. Ultimately technology is successful when it blends into the background and you sort of take it for granted. But unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to be the case with security. We always have to be on the front foot.
So again, innovation, responding, we're always behind the 8 ball. So.
That's it. And I was just going to say, with Cyan, that's the Cybersecurity Advisors Network, and of course Peter Coronius, and no doubt you're still a member with Continuum Cyber.
Definitely I am, and Peter's a mentor of mine. He had me on as a founding member when I didn't know much, taught me a lot. And again, really privileged to be involved in Cyber Minds that Peter's just launched as well, which again is a wonderful toolkit for cybersecurity professionals, IT professionals who are going through burnout. I often see the pressure that these guys are under, having worked with them in these cathedrals of capitalism that we're flanked by here in the city. But one of the things I always recognised about the CISO and those IT teams, that they were the newest to the C-suite. They were often the worst paid, least respected, because they've not been established. They were also the ones that were going home every night worrying, is this going to be the day? So I always have massive empathy for the guys that do those jobs. What Peter's doing through Cyan and Cyber Minds is a game changer. And Continuum Cyber is really proud to be involved in both of those things. I'm very grateful to Peter.
Absolutely. Cyber Minds has been soft launched. The official launch, as we are recording this, is happening next month, and I'll be there to film that. Perfect. So I'll see you there.
I'll see you there.
Now, what's a memory you can share of your first computer and your first experience with malware?
First computer experience was little town called Ulverston in the Lake District in the north of England. My father was a minister, and one morning we woke up and we had what was called an Acorn Electron.
Hey.
I'm not sure if you remember what that was, but my dad had got one of those for me and my brother Sam. And
that was from BBC, wasn't it? Acorn BBC.
That's right, yeah. And it was amazing. Couldn't believe it.
Were you playing all the games, or?
I think we had one game that we played to death, but I think that was enough.
Yeah.
My first experience with properly malware, was then when I first got in the industry. I went to a great presentation by a guy called Paul Salmon, who works at CrowdStrike, and Paul very kindly gave me some personal tutelage when I got into the industry. And Paul took me to a sandbox environment and showed me exactly how destructive that could be. And that little interaction of half an hour. Paul's got a very rich history with Cafe and a few other businesses here, but it's one of the best in the business. Showed me what the damage it could cause, and that was again a driving factor into seeing how destructive that can be. And again, it's crazy. Malware, it's just crazy.
It is, yeah. So where do you see Continuum Cyber evolving over the next couple of years? And what's your view on what things will be like in the 2030s when the Metaverse and AR glasses will be commonplace, and people might even have, chips in their brains that hackers are trying to, do ransomware attacks on, to put people into digital comas?
Yeah. First question: where do we want Continuum to be? Well, we obviously just want to keep on our customer acquisition strategy. At the moment, we're trending really well, and really excited about the number of people that we've brought on and we've onboarded. So that's exciting. You'd never want to be a victim of your own success in that first 12 months. So making sure that we
keep customers happy, secured,
that's important,
up to date.
And again, we're never going to say we're going to keep people completely assured, but what we can do is be completely secure in our commitment to servicing them. Again, we touched on before these tabletop exercises that we're doing, and some in-person training to sit alongside the training that we offer. Just that personal touch, that's what's important to us. So really for us, the mission is very clear, and that's acquiring customers and doing a good job whilst building out the platform, our UX and our portfolio of education through James and through other channels. Where does Web 3.3 go, 3.0 go? I don't know. I mean,
it grows and grows until we hit Web 4.0.
Yeah, well, I'm sure we will do at some point. I mean, we were just talking about the Acorn Electron, and again, you would have thought we'd be here now. So the acceleration and the adoption of technology is just crazy. All of the stuff around the blockchain is interesting, but cryptocurrencies, volatility, the non-asset backed NFT things, I'm sure some of them are going to go to zero. So there's going to be some Armageddon stuff going on, but out of that will come a rebuild. Again, I think the COVID situation has accelerated so much with the way that we've adopted technology, but then it's also thrown open so many new chinks in the armour as well.
Yeah.
The interesting thing about Web 3.0 from a Continuum perspective is that we don't even know what the challenge is going to be, but there's been some that have come quite quickly. I sat through a demonstration yesterday with a really bright fellow from MIT, and he was talking through how you would wear a wristband that would have your crypto, your NFT, your payment details on it, as you were walking around the Metaverse. But then I said to him, well, what would stop you just pinching it? I'm from Manchester, I was born in Liverpool. And my first thought was, what stops someone just pinching it, And who knows, who knows how they're going to ring fence that. But it's another set of challenges that we'll face. But of course the upshoot is there's going to be lots of great upside to it, and maybe the way that my kids will do their university qualification, if they choose to do that, will be fundamentally different today than it is today.
So my second last question is, what's some of the best advice that you've received in life to help you get where you are today?
Just keep going. Yeah, that's it. Just keep going. I mean, everyone. That's all I can say on that one. Everyone's got an opinion.
Never give up.
Never give up. There's times when you do end up feeling giving up, but the important thing is just getting up and keep on going, and that's the best that you can do. My choice is always to believe the best in people, and I think that's been instilled in me by my parents, and keep going. That's the best thing you can do.
Now, you probably answered this last question a few questions ago, but what is your final message to ITY viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
Yeah, great. I mean, look, if you're in that supply chain or you're in that customer chain, I was the head of a very big company last week. you need to refocus on your small businesses. We're open for business, and let's see if we can do a deal. What I would like to be able to say to people is that we're giving businesses a really good solution to help them orientate themselves, and there's going to be an on-flow effect of that. Come and join our community, come and join our marketplace, and come and have a coffee. It's been 2 years since I've probably seen you, but really what I'd really like to do is help you understand the market from the coalface, hear what people have got to say, and if you've got or you want to remodel an enterprise solution or get it out to the masses, we'd love to see if we could do that together, so give me a call. Ben Jones, the MD of Continuum Cyber, thank you very much for your time. Best of luck with keeping everyone and yourself secure, and I hope we can talk again in the future. Thanks, Alex. Thank you for your time. Thank you. Bye-bye.